Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Casual Sports Podcast. It's Tuesday, September 21st. Hope you're all having a good week. I got some bad weather here today, Matt. Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm Alec Caberna with me, Matt Morrison. Well, weather's terrible today, isn't it? Just gray skies, it's gloomy.
At least it's not hot.
Right, finally. We both woke up and said, man, it's just one of those days. Everyone's exhausted.
I'm exhausted. I might take a nap.
Yeah, on the show. I haven't talked to anybody today that's not exhausted. I don't know what today is or what the problem is, but I guess that means it's just up to us. Bring the energy back to Tuesday.
Yeah.
Well, we know that Monday Night Football wasn't the game that brought back the energy. We'll get to all that and more. Coming up today, we're going to unveil for the first time the Casual Sports Podcast top 10 rankings for college football. We're also going to be doing a little bit of a recap from our games from this past weekend for high school football, Brookfield versus Canfield, and then Howland taking on a team from Toledo. Stay tuned to hear the results from that. We're going to talk some college football as well. West Virginia University versus Virginia Tech from this past weekend. Michigan State, Miami, a game we previewed last week. We're going to talk a little bit about how that one went. Then we'll get into that Monday Night Football game. Patriots versus Jets as well. Broncos versus Jags. Bills, Dolphins, 49ers, Eagles. And then to wrap up the show, we're going to be talking best conferences in college football. So if you have an opinion on that one, make sure to put it in the comment section now. We'll get around to it. We're going to talk about Ben Simmons and his situation in Philadelphia. And some interesting news for one of the older running backs in the NFL. All that and more coming up here on the Casual Sports Podcast. Thank you all for tuning in, but let's start this how we always do. Question of the day from yesterday. Who was the longest touchdown run in a Super Bowl? That was 75 yards. Your question of the day for today, September 21st. Who holds the NFL record for most consecutive field goals made? Your options: David Akers, Robbie Gould, Neil Rackers, Adam Vinatieri, or Jeff Wilkins. Tune in tomorrow to see whether or not you got it right, and you start studying up on sports. And Matt, these games from the past weekend didn't necessarily live up to the hype now, did they, for us?
No.
No, the Friday night matchup for us, Brookfield versus Campbell. And man, that Brookfield team is good. 62-0. And Randy Clark never let up the gas pedal down. He was pedal down the whole way through. And I think he let it up maybe a little bit because I think this is the team that could have put up 80 in that game.
Oh, absolutely. He came into the store I work in, and he's like, "How'd you like that game?" I'm like, "Oh my goodness, man!"
Yeah, we were down there talking to the players before the game, and if you didn't get the chance to listen to our call, it was a good one. You should go check it out on ysnlive.com. You can purchase all the games after the fact for $2.99. So if you're interested in any of the games we call or talk about here on the show, make sure to go in and buy those and check us out. Yeah, I mean, Brookfield put them away. I mean, it was first quarter. You were like, "Oh no." It's gonna be one of those nights, and they just kept going and rolling. I mean, Pulowski, Christian Davis, Tiandre Craig had a night.
Yeah,
that's something we've been waiting for this whole season was Tiandre Craig to get going for Brookfield. We hadn't seen it through those first 3 weeks for them. They finally got him going against Campbell, and he was all over the field. And then Christian Davis, what was it, 99 yards, 95 yards?
95 yards.
Woo! And, we were in there on the call, and they hand it off right side to Davis. He's got 3 wide receivers blocking on the right side of the field, and you could just tell looking at it. I just went, Chris Davis has a touchdown before he left the backfield. Yeah. I'm going to let him take from here, and he just ran the whole length of the field untouched. I've never seen a 95-yard untouched touchdown before like that. I mean, he was off, and what a legend that guy is going to be in Brookfield.
He's only a freshman.
Right.
He's already a legend.
Exactly. I mean, he is putting up massive numbers this season. Isaiah Jones didn't play their number 1 wide receiver this past week. They were just resting him, so he should be good to go this week, hopefully, and get them back in there. He was telling us, like, man, I would love nothing more than this season to go out there and break the single-season receiving record. He's like, I haven't looked at my numbers, I don't want to, but I hope when it's all said and done, I'm over that 2,000-yard mark or something like that. I was like, this team has such a great mindset, and they are on a collision course this season with whoever is going to be there in the end with them. Like, end of the season, we get into playoff time, Springfield's a team that, they could meet back up. We already saw it week 2 of the season, 21-14 in that game, and what a fantastic matchup that was between these two teams.
They want revenge.
They want revenge. That was supposed to be Randy Clark's 100. They had the lead in the first. They were putting him away, and then here comes the YSU quarterback, Bo Brungard, and that amazing offense. I mean, they were all over the field. Then the defense just locked up Brookfield in the second half. I mean, but Brookfield's looking great. I mean, they have a few challenges down the road. They have LeBray and Garrettsfield, Garfield. You and I saw the Garfield game in Brookfield last year. It's in Brookfield once again this season, and it's one that I think Brookfield might struggle with. We saw how well Garfield was able just to pick apart and do anything they wanted. They have so much talent, and they're running a different offense than everyone else, really. It's an offense I haven't seen. I believe it's an offense that's over 60 years old, so it's old school.
But it's
wins. Complicated.
It gets the wins.
And I think if any team has the chance to go up against Garfield, and actually slow them down, it's Springfield and Brookfield. I mean, I think those are the only two that have a shot with the strength of their defense this season, the ability to just commit to their assignments and not let those big holes bust through. Brookfield's one of those teams that I think can go up against a team like Garfield and actually compete. And then that LeBray game that they're going up to, that LeBray team has got some serious weapons. You and I saw that when we called the Valley Christian game, and those two teams right now are on a great collision course as well.
Absolutely. It's going to be a couple tough games that we're really going to see how good Brookfield is, and I think they're great. But this is it's gonna build character as well. It's gonna prepare them, So we'll just see.
We'll have to wait and see. But then our Saturday night game, or Saturday afternoon, actually got moved from 7 p.m. up to 1 because the team from Toledo and the Wade Indians didn't want to make the travel out and spend the night, so they ended up just playing it earlier in the day. We were pretty hyped going to that ball game. Get down in there like, this should be interesting at least. Go talk to the coach for Wade. It's like, we got 12 guys out, including our starting quarterback. We were just like, oh no. Get in there. They got a wide receiver playing quarterback instead of one of their backups. Their only backup was like a freshman quarterback, so they weren't putting him in the game. I don't even know if he even traveled, if he was injured too. Then throughout the game, they just had more and more injuries adding up, and it was bad for them. But on the other side, Howland was fantastic in that ball game. I think it's almost getting overlooked by the poor performance of Wade, just how good Howland played this entire game. Their defense was on top of it. They forced multiple punts in that ball game, a turnover or two, I think, as well. Actually, there was a turnover on the first play of offense for Wade. It was a pitch option out to the right side, and it just went right on the ground instead and got picked up by Howland and set them up and ready to score. And once they got that first touchdown, they were off to the races as well.
Yeah, they took off. The Matt Warmer was everywhere. How many touchdowns? 4?
I think it was 4 scores, yeah.
4 scores.
But man, Matt Woomer is one of the best backs we've got right now. He is just going over everybody. It's fantastic to see through the first, 5 games. He's had over 600 yards rushing. So, what a performance he's already on for this season. And, Howland's going to have a good ride, I think. Obviously they're not high in the win categories, but they picked up that week 1 win against Niles. They picked this one up here in the middle of the season. Still half the season to go. They can turn this thing right around. It's how LeBray started last year. They were kind of down in those first few games. They turned it around and stormed back, then upset Brookfield in the second round of the playoffs, I believe it was, and 55-54 game, and sent Hayden Gibson off the field in a 1-point loss to end his career in Brookfield. Yeah. And that Brookfield team was one that slaughtered them in the early part of the season. And we're still at this halfway point. Any team right now can turn this around, flip it on its head, and then go back the other way with it.
Absolutely.
All right, so that does it for our high school recap. You can tune in this Friday, though. Matt and I will be calling in Warren JFK as Mogador comes into town in one of the most highly anticipated matchups of the season thus far. And Matt, I know Austintown Fitch has the game of the week, but I think, honestly, we might be the one that is rolling. This is the game to watch, folks. So we'll preview that one this Friday, so make sure to tune in then. And tune into the game at 7 p.m. on YSN as well to hear our beautiful voices talking it. But, Matt, let's get into the real reason people are tuning in today. The Casual Sports Podcast College Football Top 25. I know, not Top 25. That's way too many. Yeah. Top 10.
Top 10.
And, obviously, our top 10 doesn't really matter that much, but nobody else does either. So, we're going to do it anyways because we like it. But top 10, How about we go down ours individually here? We'll start off with Mike's. He had actually all of us had the same top 4, Alabama, Georgia, Oregon, Iowa, in that order. Then where we started switching things up was when we hit the number 5 spot. Yeah. Mike has Penn State at 5th, Oklahoma at 6th, Cincinnati at 7th, Michigan State at 8th, Ohio State at 9th, and Ole Miss at 10th. I'll go into mine here. So after my top 4, number 5, I went Oklahoma. I'm not too high on them right now. I have them sliding down my rankings, but I'm still waiting for that game, ready to put them right there and let them solidify that spot. Spencer Rattler has the hype, and we know he's got some good talent. So whether or not he can start putting that together. Then in the 6th spot, I have Penn State. They come off an impressive performance against Auburn, and now 2 top 25 wins on the season for them between Wisconsin and Auburn. I don't like Auburn so far. I didn't think they deserved the top 25 spot. They got it nonetheless. I mean, their wins are against Akron and Alabama State. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not great. I didn't think they were a top 25 team. But you know what? Penn State won in the end. I don't think it was your best performance. I know we already talked about it this week.
Yeah.
I think it could have gone better. I don't think Auburn is a top 25 team. But you performed against a team that was thought of as that. So we'll have to wait and see how Auburn does once they hit the SEC schedule. And same with Penn State once they hit Big Ten schedule to see if that game was really telling. I have them at 6. I think Penn State has some good things going on. I'm still waiting, once again, for that, momentum to continue once you hit conference play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big game coming up against Iowa in a few weeks, and
that's going to solidify them.
Whether or not you win or lose that game, I think that says that sets the benchmark where you guys are. So long as Iowa continues to dominate like they are, I mean, we all have them at 4th, so we all think they're good. At the 7th spot, I have Cincinnati. I mean, I am continuously impressed by the Fighting Fickles. They get the off week to go prepare for Notre Dame, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. And if they beat Notre Dame, this is a team I think I might have jumping Penn State or Oklahoma to take that spot right above it in 6th. So, I mean, Cincinnati, I'm high on them right now. I like them. And then at 8, I still have Ohio State. They're struggling, and it was hard for me to put them in that top 10, but it was also hard for me to look at a team below them and be like, they could go in and beat Ohio State. Because I don't think a lot of teams can go in and beat Ohio State, even with Ohio State's struggles. I'm not even sure Penn State's going to go in there and beat Ohio State. I mean, it's one of those matchups. Ohio State, when they need to, performs.
They're great.
I mean, you saw it in the second half against Oregon. That was week 2 with a freshman quarterback who's never played. His first game was against Minnesota. He did okay. He put together a good game against Oregon. They could have won if it wasn't for the defensive performance in that ball game, honestly. I mean, it was close. And that's a game that if Ohio State's defense shows up to play, it's one they could win. They didn't. But Ohio State, you can kind of see it start clicking. Defense was kind of finding a rhythm against Tulsa. It's still not a great performance.
That running back found his rhythm.
Travion Henderson won the ball game. And it was the first game we saw Stroud not look good at all throughout the entire thing. So it's a compounding effect of when are they all going to put it together. And that's why I still have them in the top 10 at 8. I like what they have in total. I'm waiting for it all to come together. And so long as they don't drop another one, I think I'll have them staying around 8, 9, 10. Until they hit one of those big games and win it. Because these next 5 weeks aren't going to matter for them for the most part. I mean, well, what do we got? Akron, Rutgers, Indiana, all 3 coming up of those. So they should be easy games for Ohio State. And I don't think it's really going to matter. I think they're going to stay sitting around 8 or 9. But in my 9th spot, Michigan State in the AP Top 25. They're ranked 20th. But I like this Michigan State squad. They have a win over Northwestern to start the season. Then they beat Miami, a team that Alabama also beat and was given a lot of credit for. So you have to give the same credit back to Michigan State for beating that same team if you're going to give it to Alabama. Both times Miami was ranked. They lost the ranking here after this game. But Michigan State has shown this season some pretty good performances already. And I'm excited to see what they can do in the Big Ten and see if they can cause some mayhem here in the East. Because they got a bunch of guys on their schedule who they can really turn the tables on. And then in my 10th spot, a team that I'm not high on, but I still, it was the same thing with Ohio State. I like what they have in total, waiting for them to put it together, but I still can't rationalize saying that a team like Texas A&M or Ole Miss or Coastal Carolina or any of these other teams right there on the cusp of 10 can go in and beat Clemson. I have Clemson at number 10, and they still have a good quarterback. We're waiting, though. He's a young guy, too, just like Stroud. to put things together, find the flow of the game. Obviously, it's not Trevor Lawrence. These guys aren't Justin Fields. Those guys played football for a decent amount of time and were pretty damn good at it. And I just don't see Stroud or DJ at that point yet. I think they're both going to get there, though. They both are great football players, but great quarterbacks. And I still have Clemson on the cusp of 10. I think they might drop unless they put in a good performance this week. So, Matt, why don't you go on your top 10 there? Obviously, top 4 is still Alabama, Georgia, Oregon, Iowa. Give us the rest of it.
So, at 5, I have Oklahoma as well. Spencer Rattler, not too high on him, but he has all the hype, and he's gonna come around. He's kind of floating around. He kind of like Stroud and DJ. So he's floating around. He's trying to find his rhythm. I'm not too high on him. I'm not a big fan of him, but I believe he's gonna come into fruition pretty soon. I truly believe that. Then going down to 6, I also had Penn State. Clifford having so far his best season at Penn State right now. I don't know if that's going to be enough to beat Iowa or Ohio State, but it's a start. It's a start. So I think you keep building off that. Mike and I went in depth yesterday. Keep hitting those receivers, Parker Washington and also Dawson, and their defense is lights out. Keep doing that. So, and maybe we'll win some big games. Just keep doing what you're doing. Maybe adjust a couple things on offense. Like I said yesterday, rotate the running backs more. I like the 3 running back rotation with Kane and Lee and then Lovett. I like to rotate them in. It confuses the defense more. And then at 7, I have Texas A&M. I put them in there. Yeah. I don't think they can beat any of those top 4 teams there or anybody above them. I don't think they can beat them. But
do you think they can beat anyone below them?
I think they could. They could probably take it to Cincinnati. But
I can't get over that 10-7 win.
I'm gonna
for
get
Texas
there.
A&M.
I'm gonna get there. But I have them there because they've got the wins pretty much. Then I'm moving down to Cincinnati. They haven't won that big game yet. Once they win that big game,
Notre Dame.
That's the game.
That's the game.
That's the game they're gonna move up. Okay, and then Ohio State. Pretty much everything you just said.
They got it all.
They got it all. They're just young. They're young guys. Right. And then, at 10, I also have Clemson. Same thing. Same thing you said. That's pretty much it.
So we'll give the culmination here of what does that mean for our official top 10. And
I think it's the best. Honestly, our top 10 is better than the CBS top 10.
Better than RJ Young and Fox Sports,
that's
for sure. That one's terrible,
That's
isn't it?
horrible.
Yeah. All right, well, you guys get to judge whether or not ours is terrible, too. Let us know. Let us know any changes you would make in it as well. But we'll start off number 1 through 4 is going to be obvious because we all had them. Alabama sits at number 1. Georgia sits at number 2. Oregon at number 3. And Iowa at 4th moment. Those are our 4 college football playoff teams. Obviously, long way to go, so that's all going to change most likely.
Yes.
In 5th, you and I both had Oklahoma. Mike had Penn State.
Yeah.
So at 5, it is Oklahoma. At 6, we do have Penn State. At 7, though, Cincinnati, they got the spot there. They had 2 7 votes, 1 8. And below them, Ohio State in the 8th spot, right where I had them. You and Mike actually both had them sitting back at 9th, but due to your Texas A&M vote, it kind of actually dropped them down. So it allowed Ohio State to get that spot at number 8. At number 9, we then have Michigan State. I put them there. Mike had them all the way up at 8th, so they're got a good spot right now. Big Ten's in a good spot. Obviously, maybe we show a little bit of Big Ten bias.
Oh, yeah.
But when you look at the Big Ten, they're either top 10 or terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't it? Big Ten will have 4 teams in the top 10 and no one else in the top 25.
Yeah.
So, that's how it goes. And then in the 10 spot, thanks to you giving them such a high ranking, Mike and I didn't put it in the top 10, but they get the 10th spot because of your vote towards them in 7th. So Texas A&M takes our 10th spot here in the ranking. So there it is, the top 10 for the Casual Sports Podcast. We'll be unveiling our top 10 every Tuesday show without Mike on it. So unfortunately, you're not going to get to hear his fantastic analysis of why he put those teams in that spot. But you know what? It is what it is. Let's get into some football from this past weekend. West Virginia took it to number 15, Virginia Tech. So hard that Virginia Tech lost its top 25 ranking. They were 15th going into this game. Now they're unranked. West Virginia won it 27-21. And this was not a West Virginia team anybody thought had a shot. They lost to West Virginia. They lost to Maryland week 1 against Maryland, 30-24. Then they played nobody the next week. They come in here and just have themselves a game. They did what they needed to. And it was led by Letty Brown on offense. The rush game was great, nearly 20 carries for 161 yards and a touchdown. Didn't have the best thing through the air, but they didn't need to when they were in such a low-scoring game. And I think they played well enough in that first quarter, in that first half, 24 points in that first half alone. Obviously, just 3 in the second. But when you go out to that big lead, they were 24-7. All it takes now is the defense to hold a little bit longer, and you can be just fine in that game. That is what they did. They go in there at home, defend the home turf against the Hokies.
Yeah. And maybe this is the first maybe this is a sign we're going to see that old West Virginia back when they had Will Greer. Next week they're going to tell because they're playing Oklahoma. So,
yeah. Can you imagine West Virginia goes in, gets the upset? That'll be a team I think jumps out of, non-top 25. I think they'll be sitting up near 17, 16, 15 if they can pull off a win against Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see those rankings jump just randomly every now and then. You get a team that goes up and they shock the world and jump up. That's a team that West Virginia can beat because they'll be on the same tier as Penn State at that point. 2 top 25 wins, and one of them will be against number 5 Oklahoma. So it'll be a better-looking spot for West Virginia. And at that point, if West Virginia can go in there and beat Oklahoma, even if it's close, I think West Virginia could probably get ranked higher than Penn State at the moment. If you look at quality of wins. Yeah. Obviously they still have a loss to Maryland. That's something you got to look at. Because Penn State undefeated. But if you're looking at quality of wins, which the committee tends to does when we get to that actual college football playoff, you look at the wins for them and kind of negate the 6-point loss to start the season. It's one of those. Could teeter-totter either way. And it wasn't a bad day for Virginia Tech in the air. 19-31, 223 yards, 2 touchdowns. But they just couldn't get it going on the ground. They split 10-plus carries between 3 guys, and none of them could, get it. 3 guys with 10-plus carries, and none of them were really going anywhere.
They were both under 50 yards.
Right. It wasn't a great game for Virginia in the rush department. Pass game was fine. You live with those numbers in college football, but ACC, man, that conference is bad. Besides Clemson. Who in the ACC besides Clemson is actually consistently good at football?
Pitt's coming around.
Pitt?
They're 2-1.
They're 2-1, but
lose 2.
They lost to Western Michigan.
Oh, God.
They beat UMass to start the season.
They beat Tennessee.
Then they beat Tennessee, who's, a crop duster of the SEC.
Yeah.
They're in the bottom half and just feeds Alabama wins.
Yeah.
The ACC, they have some okay teams. They're okay. UNC and Virginia Tech and 2-1 in the ACC Coastal. Wake Forest is 3-0, and Wake Forest is stuck at the Clemson a few years in a row.
Yeah.
But they haven't had an impressive win. They beat Old Dominion, Norfolk State, and Florida State. Florida State is obviously a team that people want to say, it's Florida State, it's a good quality win. It's not. Florida State's not good at football anymore.
They've been off.
The last time they were good at football? Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
They're 0-3 right now. They lost to Jacksonville State. You can't even say it's a quality win. So, that's what I have in that ball game. Next one up, though. We previewed it last week. Michigan State, Miami. I was ringing the bell. I was saying this was the upset alert. Michigan State pulls it 3-0, 38-17 over Miami. And I think that was the game they needed to have. Made that statement there and put up a near performance to an Alabama did. Alabama won 44-13. Michigan State wins 38-17. So obviously you can see it's a little bit of a different separation there. But you know what? They had a great game on their own. Peyton Thorne, 18-31, 4 touchdowns. That I'll take that any day. And then Kenny Walker on the ground, 172 yards rushing. He's having himself the season so far for Michigan State, isn't he?
He is. Absolutely. He's putting in the work.
Yeah. It's fantastic. And then the other side, Garrett King, throwing it way too many times. Yeah. 59 attempts. Oh, that's awful. You don't want any quarterback throwing it 50-plus times, let alone near 60. Especially 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. They were just trying to come back at that point. And Michigan State put it away in the fourth quarter, 21-3. They outscored Miami in that fourth quarter of play.
Wow.
So they put up a statement win there and really put it away when they needed to. I mean, it was a 17-14 game going into that final quarter, and they just blew them out. They ended that thing quick.
They sure
and,
did.
It was a great performance for them in the
Big Ten
end.
football right there.
Wait till the last minute,
football.
and then if you're not having a heart attack watching Big Ten football, you're not watching Big Ten football. Me being an Ohio State fan, I've been watching Big Ten football in Columbus, but I am this season.
I had a heart attack at that Penn State game. I'm like, oh my God, no! I was getting so mad. Oh.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but that does it here for college football.
Yeah.
At the halfway point, we're going to make the transition into some NFL talk. We'll talk Monday Night Football from last night. Green Bay Packers had a slugfest going in that first half. Pulled away in the end, though. I mean, came out, won the third quarter, and held Detroit Lions quiet on the scoreboard in that entire second half.
Yeah.
Outscored them 21-0.
They didn't score at all.
Yeah, 21-0 in that second half. So, I mean, you don't blame this game for the Lions on Jared Goff. 26-36, 246 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. I think anyone lives with that stat line if their quarterback puts that up.
No.
Rush game, where are the carries? 15 combined carries for DeAndre Smith and Jamal Williams. And both were averaging over 3.5 yards per carry. Give them the ball more. You flip this over to the Packers. Aaron Rodgers had himself the best game he's had in quite a while. 22-27, 255 yards and 4 touchdowns. And you look on the ground, Aaron Jones was averaging 3.9 yards per carry, got a touchdown, but he alone had 17 carries, and right behind him, A.J. Dillon had 5. Then you give Kylan Hill 2 carries. Rodgers even took off 4 times. Jordan Love got a few carries. He didn't do anything with it. But, they ran the football.
Expanded it.
And they expanded the offense. And give credit to Devontae Adams on this game. 121 yards on 8 receptions. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was finding the mark all night. But you look at Detroit, and it's like, where was your game? What was the game plan for this? Because you look at the stats, it looks like they didn't want to throw it too much, only 36 times. And you go to the rush game, like, well, they didn't want to rush it either. What was their plan? Punt the football? Because that's what they did in the second half.
I don't know. That's a horrible plan. I mean, the score tells it.
Yeah, I mean, it
they
really
scored
does.
all in the second half.
And, it was a game.
They were winning.
They were leading 17-14 going into the half, and it was like, all right, my pick for Detroit last night, despite the fact that I'm a Packers fan, I got a Packers hat in my room.
Courtesy of me.
Yeah, courtesy of you. You don't want it. And you don't want the Baker Mayfield jersey either that I got, so that's great.
Yeah. I hate the Packers.
I'm a cheesehead,
my dad would kill me if I wore that Baker Mayfield.
AJ Hawk played there. That's where he started his career in the NFL. That's why honestly, probably the reason I like them. But, that's not the point. I mean, Detroit, the second half was just awful. I'm glad I went to bed, started the third quarter. I was like, it's an okay game. Went to bed and woke up in the morning like, cool, didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
I knew when the game was over. So, I mean, it's just a game. Detroit has to find it. They're 0-2. They got the Ravens next week. The Bears after that. And the question marks, I think, are still lingering with the Bears, though. And obviously, we talked about that a little bit. But, Green Bay, this was the game they needed. Go 1-1, absolutely smack around the Lions. And they get to go next week out to San Francisco, take on the 49ers before hosting the Packers.
Man.
I mean, before hosting Pittsburgh, yeah.
That's the game Pittsburgh has to steal right there. I'm saying it right now. We have to steal that game like we stole the Buffalo game. We have to steal it. It's not our. I mean, they're not going to give us the win. We have to go out and steal that win because everybody's doubting us. We have to take that win.
What'd you guys do this week?
Yeah.
Talk about stealing wins. Everyone's doing against the Jets. 25-6 for the New England Patriots. And I think you can start to say maybe Zach Wilson wasn't that great of a pick for them. And maybe they should have started focusing on building a team before they just threw a quarterback into the mix. 4 interceptions for him on 19-33 and 210 yards. The 19-33 with 210 is all right. It's the 4 picks on the other side that you don't like from them. They ran the ball a little bit more than that. That's all we had to say. They needed to run the football, give him time to find his mark, and they did that. They ran the football and he looked better, but the 4 interceptions definitely makes you look a lot worse on the stat sheet.
So it's the Jets. It's just the Jets. Because look at Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold's in Carolina. They're ripping it up.
They're doing great. It's just the Jets.
And it's not like New England had a fantastic day. I mean, Mac Jones didn't throw a touchdown. He was under 200 yards passing. I mean, completion percentage, he was off the charts, 22 of 30. You like that. Just 186 yards, and They had 2 touchdowns on the ground, one from Damian Harris, one from James White. But look at them. They had over 21 combined carries for the 2 of them, and they're running the football, allowing the young guys to feel the offense. And that's what the Jets did. It just didn't end up working for them because 4 picks tend to do that. And, defense for the Patriots, they looked pretty good in this game.
Devin McCourty.
J.C. Jackson's 2 interceptions for him. I mean, that's a pretty nice day that I think you'll take just about any week. And,
Absolutely.
they haven't needed a ton of offense here early part of the season because of how great this defense has been. Against the Giants, I mean, they just won it. It was, week 1 against the Dolphins. Their defense held strong. Just the offense is still finding itself. Week 2 here against the Jets, defense held strong. Offense didn't need to do much. They win the game.
It's true.
What have the Patriots always
defense,
done?
Man.
Won with defense.
Always.
Because they were using Tom Brady. They weren't launching him down the field. They want to eat the clock up, do short passes, move it down the field methodically, get it to Rob Gronkowski back in the day, Slowly move it down the field.
Amendola, Edelman, those guys as well.
Snooze your opponent to death before punching it in. Then you give it back to him against a stout defense that's now sat on the bench for 7 minutes, who's going to come out there and punch you in the mouth and start making you go the other way. Patriots are back to Patriots football, it looks like.
Absolutely.
Defensively, still waiting for the offense to catch back up, though.
Yep.
Up next for the Patriots, though, they get to host the Saints and then the Buccaneers. So back games for
That's
them.
going to be a game, though.
Which one, Saints or Buccaneers?
The Buccaneers, Pats, Brady. Is it in Foxborough? Oh man!
Yeah, Brady comes home.
Oh, that's gotta be
party.
That's gotta be a prime time game. What time is that game?
That one was on.
Yeah. Oh yes! Great! I'm not gonna miss it. That's gonna be a great game.
We'll preview that one when it comes up for October 3rd. So we'll talk that one October 1st.
Woo.
Once we get into it. But yeah, Saints Patriots up next, and that's a game that is like Saints didn't have as great of a week 2 as they did week 1, but still, it's the Saints.
It's the Saints.
Don't have Michael Thomas though, so I guess we'll see. But next game up here on our schedule, one of the only 2 undefeated teams in the AFC, the Denver Broncos. Mile High City took it against Jacksonville. Jaguars fall to 0-2 with T-Law not having his best game. 14-33, 118 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. They didn't run the football anymore either. Only 11 carries for James Robinson for 47 yards. I mean, he didn't have a bad day. They took all the carries away from Carlos Hyde. He had just 2. And they still need to give more rushes to him. I don't care if they're losing football games at the moment. Jacksonville isn't looking to win right now. They're looking to build an offense around Trevor Lawrence right now. And they're not doing it.
He doesn't have an offense, no.
I mean, he didn't have a wide receiver to go to. It was Marvin Jones, 6 receptions, 55 yards and a touchdown. That's not what you're looking for. I mean, DJ Shark, who was great in Carolina and was a great guy for fantasy football as well, 1 of 19, or 1 reception, 19 yards. That's terrible. I mean, they didn't have anybody to go to as well.
They got to get receivers out there.
Right? I mean, Shark was a great pickup, yes, but they got to get guys around him because he's not a number 1 guy.
No.
It's just like with Juju in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
He's not a number 1. Go find your number 1 and then worry about getting the number 2 and 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Get guys that can shine while one guy's taking the spotlight away from the, get the star corners matched up and drags the safeties over to his side of the field. Then you load up the other side and let them go work. That's what the Browns did. They brought in Jarvis, and they brought Jarvis Landry in, and everything else kind of fell into place right behind him.
You bring in Odell, then...
Yeah, then you brought in Odell, and...
Even Hooper came over. Hooper tight end.
Everything fell into place once you bring in that number 1 guy.
Everybody wants to go there.
Everybody wants to be there. Everyone's like, oh, cool. This is a team that looks like they want to establish themselves. They're bringing in pieces, and they're building something. I want to play there. How many times have we been able to say people want to play in Cleveland?
Yeah.
Not in baseball, not in football, not in basketball, not in hockey. Well, actually, sometimes in hockey, Monsters aren't too bad. They've been good recent years. Yeah, they won a championship just a few years ago.
Yeah.
Cavs as well.
I mean, you can look at the Titans, with Julio Jones. They brought in Julio Jones. I still think AJ Brown's the number 1 guy right now. I mean,
I think so.
His team.
Who was a little older too. So.
Yeah.
Back to this game, Teddy Bridgewater for the Broncos.
Woo.
He had himself a night too. 26 of 34 and
328 yards. Dear God.
2 touchdowns as well.
It's looking like that old Vikings.
Something I liked for this, though, that didn't rely on his arm, even though he was having a great night. Yeah. 26 combined carries for Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, combined for 95 yards, which isn't great, but you know what? It slowed down the game enough to allow the Broncos, 1, to milk the clock out, and 2, to really just continue to pound it down the field, just like we were talking the Patriots used to do. Just pound it down the field slowly, wear that defense out, and give your defense time to, catch their breath, too. We have explosive offenses in the NFL, and you're almost seeing it, even though, look at the Cowboys, Chiefs, and Buccaneers. They're putting up 40-plus points a game, but you look at the defense, their defense side, they're also giving up 35, 40 points a game. Because a defense is exhausting to play compared to offense, sometimes going out there trying to hit somebody every time, keep up, and it sometimes can even be a little bit more mentally draining as well, trying to figure out what the offense is going to do next.
Absolutely.
And this offensive style right now for the Broncos, it's pretty good. I know a lot of people were like, oh man, they brought in Bridgewater, what? His last few seasons
and he's been great.
Have been terrible, and he's performed.
Teddy Bridgewater has never been a bad quarterback. He just hasn't played. You can't misjudge him off that at all. He was great in Minnesota. He didn't play at all in the Saints because they had Drew Brees. Then where was he next? Where was he?
He was in Carolina. And he played a little bit there, but he never really shined.
Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot, no.
Didn't he play for the Saints as their backup and won all the games with Drew Brees out?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Pretty sure that's what happened.
Probably. He's good.
He is. He wins.
He wins.
And, he's going to win this next one, too. They got coming up as I just do something to my screen. That's interesting. I broke things. It's fine, though. It's on my end. They got the Jets coming up next week, so it should be in the 3-0 start for the Broncos. Then they hit the meat of their schedule. Ravens, Steelers, Raiders, Browns.
That's going to be tough.
That's not where you want to see. Then they got Washington, a top defense. Then Cowboys after that, a top offense. Then the Eagles, who are still finding themselves. The Chargers, who are finding themselves. Woo! Then the Chiefs, then looking at a bye week with the Lions.
Hey, you never know.
I think we know. And then they have to go take on the Bengals, who are kind of finding themselves early on. They're looking all right. Then the Raiders, then back to the Chargers, then back to the Chiefs. It's a rough schedule they got to go through in this season. So, we'll see how they handle it. But, I'm looking forward to the Bridgewater show here. But
Me too.
Bills, boy, oh boy, what a game they had. Josh Allen, it really wasn't even on him, but they won 35-0. He had just 2 touchdowns, an interception, and 17-33 passing for 179 yards.
You talked about him. Yeah. You talked about him. Rely on Singletary. I think they got their guy. You said it. Look at him. 13 carries, 82 yards. You've said this time and time again. I don't think they should draft a running back. I think Singletary is good. Yeah. I doubt it. I'm like, no, I don't know.
13 carries, 82 yards, and a touchdown. I'll take that. I'll take that any day.
Yeah.
I'd like a little bit more, but everyone just keeps saying, like, oh, Bills need a running back. They don't have a solid running back. They don't have a Chubb. They don't have Henry. I'm like, you're not finding Chubb and Henry in the draft anymore. No. We got Najee Harris who came out, and he was kind of the spotlight of this year's draft. Yeah. And so far, he hasn't performed yet for the Steelers. I didn't think there was anybody in this draft that really looked like the guy, and I was like, you know what? They got Singletary, who has had some great seasons, and I think just last year, and I like what he's got. I like what they got with Devin Singletary and Allen in the backfield, and they got rid of Kareem Hunt to let Singletary be the guy.
Kareem Hunt? No.
Yes.
Kareem Hunt?
Hunt was on the Bills for a short period of time. They brought him in after he left the Chiefs and released him because they liked Singletary better.
Really?
Yes.
I had no idea about that. Well, I
And on the other side of this, Tua went out early in the game. He got injured pretty quick. Status still going to be unknown for this coming season. Jacoby Brissett, though, in at quarterback for the Dolphins after his stint with the Colts. Yeah, whatever. 24 of 40 for him, 169 yards and an interception for Jacoby Brissett.
Man.
Not a great game. In the rush game, where was it? They had nothing. 5 carries from Myles Gaskins.
Could go off, and you only gave him 5 carries?
5 carries for Malcolm Brown, 5 carries for Salvon Ahmed. You got to get somebody going on the ground. 5 carries isn't going to get it done.
Not at all.
I didn't like the performance. I think Bills played good, and they took the game.
I think you were talking about LaShawn McCoy.
I don't know. Maybe.
LaShawn McCoy is a big running back there, and they cut him for Singletary. They cut Frank Gore, too.
Perhaps I am. Who knows?
I don't know. It doesn't say anything
about
the Bills.
Mardell Hollis, he went 5-0 with the Saints when Breeze got hurt. I thought he did. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We were sure about it, but we weren't. Thanks for looking it up.
You weren't sure. You're like, he didn't play with the Saints. I'm like, wait, didn't he come in and win all the games when Breeze was out?
I knew he played for the Saints.
Yeah, you thought he didn't come in and play.
Yeah, a while ago.
I mean, it wasn't that long ago, Matt. You were in high school longer ago.
Yeah. That was a long time ago. God, let's not reminisce about that.
All right, next game up on our slate here is we're 20 minutes left in the show. Game. San Francisco 49ers, Eagles. Jimmy G, 22-30. But once again, I think both in college football and the NFL, we saw some really poor quarterback play.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was about this past week. In college didn't look great. NFL, no one's looked great, really, besides Aaron Rodgers. But he played on Monday.
Yeah.
And, under 200 yards, just one touchdown. And through the air, he was the only one that got a touchdown on the ground, surprisingly. But, Eli Mitchell really couldn't get it going. JaMychal Hasty, though, pretty nice. 5 carries, 38 yards. But, I mean, it wasn't a great game, really, either side. Jalen Hurts, 12 of 23, 190 yards. On the ground, though, he did lead the team in rushing. 10 carries, 82 yards, and a touchdown. You know what you're getting out of Hurts. But I still think Philadelphia needs to get it more to Sanders, and Sanders needs to find out how to run the football.
And Gainwell, too. Gainwell can go, man. I think he was Memphis. He was great at Memphis.
Memphis, though,
I mean, they almost beat Penn State in that bowl game.
Yeah, they did. I liked Memphis.
Yeah.
Pat McAfee was on that train, too.
Yeah.
But, like, Miles Sanders, 13 carries and only 55 yards. I think we kind of said this week one, too. Miles Sanders has to get it going because he's not looking like the guy everyone thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
People were like, saw this guy coming out of Penn State right behind Saquon, like, oh, we got the next guy up here, give him the ball, let him roll, and, he looked okay week 1, 15 carries, 74 yards. Then you come out here this week, kind of laid an egg against the 49ers, who, by all, no stretch of the imagination, have a bad defense. They got a good defense in San Francisco. They're undefeated as well, 2-0 with the win over the Eagles and the Lions, but it hasn't been a hard schedule for them.
He's not like that superstar type of running back. He's just a guy out there just to do the best he can. Sometimes he comes up a little bit short, but he's had some great games.
Consistency.
Yeah.
That's what you ask for out of a running back in the NFL, consistency. And we don't know if he can do that or not. So we're going to have to wait and find out. But that's going to do it for our NFL segment here. Hope you all enjoyed. Let's get into some more college football talk, though, because we only talked a few games here and there.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more in depth. Best conference right now in college football, what do you think?
Right now?
Right now.
I mean, you got a bunch of the Big Ten teams in the top 10. I mean, how many are there?
I believe it's 6.
6. In the whole top 25.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of teams, okay, for the Big Ten. I mean, they're definitely up there. I don't know if I can give an honest answer right now, but they're looking pretty
Well, we're talking about it right now, so you have to.
Yeah.
Going Big Ten?
I'll probably go Big Ten.
Ooh, you're wrong. It's still the SEC. Best team, best conference in football right now. I mean, look at it. They have one team that doesn't have a winning record. Everybody else, granted, they face FCS schools to start the season.
Yeah.
It's poor. I hate it. But you look at these teams, Georgia, that's a good football team.
Kentucky, man, with Will Levis. That guy has been balling out at Kentucky. They're 3-0.
3-0 with a poor win over Chattanooga, a poor win over Missouri, and then a win over LA Monroe to start the season.
Yeah. But he's putting up some numbers.
Putting up some nice numbers. Then we talked Tennessee, their loss to Pitt, and I mean the other team is Bowling Green and Tennessee Tech.
Ugh.
It's like the SEC gets a ton of hype at the beginning of the season. It's like, oh look, everyone's undefeated. It's because they're facing the FCS, and I still think the SEC could probably beat the Big Ten right now if they went head-to-head in matchups, face best on best, worst on worst, that kind of stuff.
Florida would be, for sure, Florida would be every team in there, except Georgia would be the questionable one.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Florida and Georgia right there in the SEC East, I think not only could beat everybody else in the SEC East, but could probably beat 99% of the teams in college football in those two teams are playing fantastic. I mean, even when we saw Florida have a bad game against Bama,
they almost pulled it off.
They still almost won. Can you imagine if they have a good game? They can beat anybody, really, realistically. And you flip this over, Ole Miss 3-0 on the season. They had no good wins yet, and they face Alabama this week, so we'll see how they fare.
Arkansas
Obviously,
coming around.
Alabama there. Arkansas, once again, hasn't had any good wins. They beat Texas.
Yeah.
Texas isn't good at football. They haven't been good at football since Vince Young was there. And
I mean, McCoy was all right, but they haven't been great since Vince Young.
Right.
So,
That when we're talking good football for Texas,
Yeah.
it's Vince Young, not
Vince
football.
Young.
Vince Young was here, McCoy was there. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to be
They won
there
some
if you want to be
pretty big-
be good in Texas.
they won some big bowl games with Colt McCoy. That's
Yeah.
what I remember.
It's a bowl game.
Game.
That's not good Texas football.
No.
If we're being honest, I mean, the standard is here in Texas. It should probably be here though.
Yeah.
But then I mean, you look at these top 4 teams in the SEC West: Alabama, Ole Miss, Arkansas, A&M. I mean, I don't like A&M. They had a terrible win over Colorado in their only win against a Power 5 team.
Yeah.
I haven't been impressed. But obviously Auburn stuck it to Penn State, who is one of the best teams in Big Ten football. So when you look at that, you're like, well, Auburn, a team that I don't really think is very good in the SEC, and they still stuck it to a Big Ten top contender. It kind of makes you look at the Big Ten and go, well, are we that good? I'm a Big Ten fan. I stick Big Ten through and through, and I go, oh man, Big Ten gets some really crappy calls their way, and all
They
this
do.
and that,
They
and
do.
whatnot, and like Penn State being forced to punt on 3rd down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but you look at the SEC and the way they perform out of conference, and then they go beat up on each other in conference, much like the Big Ten does in basketball. The SEC looks dominant. They go in, they beat everybody else in the country, and then they kill each other.
For years.
And they've been doing it for years.
Doesn't matter how bad the teams are playing; they do it year in and year out.
And just like we said with
And
Ohio
they do them
State
by
and
a
the
lot.
Big Ten, right?
Yeah.
Until someone proves they are better, you're the top dog.
Yeah.
The SEC is the top dog until some other conference like the Big Ten comes in and proves them wrong. And frankly, it's not going to be the ACC. I don't know if it'll be the Pac-12 this year. I don't think the Pac-12 has the teams to compete against them if they were to go up all one-on-one against each other. I think Oregon's really the only one that could compete. I don't know about anybody else there. Big Ten, I mean, Iowa against Alabama, that's their top-ranked team. Their top-ranked team, I think Alabama hurts them. I do. I don't think it's a good matchup. And at the moment, if that's our top-ranked team and Alabama's their top-ranked team, who wins? Bama. Even Ohio State, Bama wins it. Alabama, Penn State, Alabama wins it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go Georgia or Florida against Iowa, Ohio State, Penn State, you'd be hard-pressed to say Georgia and Florida wouldn't win all those games.
Yeah.
With the inconsistency of Big Ten football. And that's just it, inconsistent play out of Big Ten teams. You see it week in, week out. SEC teams win like they're supposed to 9 times out of 10 besides Texas A&M.
That's true.
The SEC performs week in, week out. That's why I have to give them the edge here. Penn State did not dog Auburn. I'm sorry, they didn't. Auburn's not even a good football team. They won by 1 possession in what's supposed to be the hardest place to play football.
I'm a Penn State fan, okay? And, I mean, their defense dogged Auburn, but, I mean, if their offense was elite, then they would have dogged them completely. But their defense won the game.
You let up 20 points to Bo Nix.
Yeah. Well,
Bo Nix isn't a good quarterback.
Well, I mean, most of those points came from the running back.
They did, but still.
Bo Nix didn't do anything.
I don't think Penn State dogged Auburn. No way was that dogging. If that's what dogging is, I don't want to know about your life.
That's an 8-point win. That's not dog.
Yeah, it was an okay win. It was impressive.
It was a solid win.
But when it's the whiteout and it's supposed to be quote unquote the hardest place to play in football, and the record in the whiteout is 7-6, and you haven't really ever blown someone out in the whiteout.
I mean, we play the tough teams.
Yeah, you play tough teams in it, but look at places like LSU, Death Valley. When they're in their biggest games, they perform, they win, they blow people out eventually. Even Auburn in the Iron Bowl when they were good. They blow people out there. Right.
A couple of times with Jared Stidham.
You look at these biggest stadiums besides Michigan, when they play their biggest games, they go out there and they perform. Penn State, yes, they performed, but not to the level they should have. For a team that wants to be top 5, going up against a 20-plus ranked team, you got to do better than 8 points.
They do.
You know? So, sorry, Mardell. Not the case for you.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Thanks for commenting. Keep commenting.
Yeah, you guys are more than welcome to comment on our show. We'll try and interact as much as possible. But we're going to move a little bit out here of our college football talk. Just some NBA talks. Don't click away. I know people don't like it. But Ben Simmons, done with the 76ers, won't report to training camp and has no intentions of playing in Philadelphia ever again with the organization. Good move, bad move, Matt.
Honestly, I mean, he's a good point guard. I mean, he's not that offensive power. I mean, he can't shoot. Okay, he can get inside. He's a big guy. He can get inside, and I mean, I don't know. I don't really see it as a huge loss for Philly because they have some good players. But I mean, they still have Embiid, and but I mean, I think it was time to move on.
Yeah, trust the process. The process is over.
No, and I hope Cleveland does not pick him up. Because every Cleveland
we have enough guards.
Every Cleveland page has been like, "Oh, let's get Ben Simmons." I'm like, first of all, he can't shoot.
Yeah, what has Cleveland's number one problem been the last 5 years? We haven't
been able to shoot
football.
You're gonna add a guy that can't shoot.
Right. It's the complete wrong move, especially because we're adding all these bigs and we're like, we still can't shoot the ball.
Still can't shoot the ball.
We're gonna be holding teams to 90 points. And we're only gonna be able to score 80 because we can't shoot. So we're gonna make it look like WNBA basketball. We're not hitting 100 points. We'll be able to dunk the ball, but, because we got some 7-footers out there, we're just going to stand there next to the hoop all the time. But, I think this is a good move from Ben Simmons, though. Moving out of here, I think he's going to end up in a better system than he is in right now. And honestly, I think he's going to end up somewhere where he doesn't need to shoot the ball. He's going to be a facilitator, and I could see, honestly, Clippers.
I was going to say Portland.
You think everyone's going to Portland? You're worse than Knicks fans.
I know I like Portland, but he can facilitate the ball.
They don't need a facilitator.
I mean, it'd be nice.
They're not going to bring in Ben Simmons who can't shoot to a team that has struggled to shoot in the playoffs.
Okay.
They need shooters. Clippers. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, two guys that can shoot the lights out. Yeah. They've gotten rid of their bench. Bring in Ben Simmons, create a big three. You don't have to rely on him to shoot the ball anymore.
Pass it.
He can open up. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George sitting down the wings, opening up the floor, will allow Ben Simmons to drive in and out, up and down, wherever he wants. And they don't play with the big very often. They play, smaller ball, where they bring one of their bigs out to the perimeter, and that just opens up the lane. It plays to Ben Simmons' strength. I think Ben Simmons needs to go to the Clippers.
Clippers, what about maybe a Denver, maybe? Get out the Jamal Murray, maybe?
Jamal Murray's good, though.
Yeah. They didn't pass it out to him.
Yeah, but he's their guard.
Yeah.
He's got. I don't think Ben Simmons fits in a lot of systems.
Okay. No, he doesn't.
I think a system that maybe he could thrive in, Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, maybe?
Kyrie, James Harden, Kevin Durant, and then Ben Simmons.
Watch them go to the Lakers, man.
No. No, they're going to have enough problems shooting the ball. They don't need Ben Simmons. They got LeBron and Rondo shooting the ball. God. I mean, no, I don't know. Let's not do that one, please. But
that'd be horrible.
Here, last 7 minutes of our show, Matt.
Yes.
We got some big news coming.
This is awesome.
A ton of teams are without running backs right now. They need running backs, and they go to old reliable Frank Gore. Then he goes, "Nah, I'm good. I'm going to be a boxer."
I want to try boxing.
How about a full 180?
Listen, the guy can probably truck some people. He can probably hit. He looks like
truck some people, maybe, but I don't know if he can punch somebody. We know he can run them over, but you can't run somebody over in boxing.
I mean, I don't know. He said he's been training. I mean, he looks like Mike Tyson, but smaller.
Oh man, I don't know if I can see Frank Gore as a boxer. Jake Paul versus Frank Gore?
That'd be awesome. Logan Paul.
I mean, either one, I think, yeah.
Boom.
How short is Frank Gore, though? Isn't he smaller?
Frank Gore is small.
That's what I thought. I was like, he's going to go up against a lot of boxers who are a lot taller than him. I think he's just going to get knocked out in his first game.
He'd be able to get inside, and he's quick. He's old.
No, he's going to try and get inside and get popped once, and he's going to go straight into retirement.
He's about 6 foot, 5'9".
Okay.
So
Wait, 6 foot 5'9"?
Oh, he's 5'9".
Yeah, that's not near 6 foot, Matt.
Okay, he's 5'9".
Okay.
He's 38. I don't know.
So Greg Hardy did pretty good in MMA. I think Herschel Walker did too. I'm not sure about Herschel. I'd have to
Herschel
look
Walker
into that.
did MMA.
Did
he was pretty good in the MMA.
Well,
I
just almost think Frank Gore's too old to make that transition in there. You know? I would love to. I'd like him to prove me wrong. I love it. I love it when I criticize an athlete, they go out there and prove me wrong next week. I'm like, yes, that's what you need to do. Go prove people, the doubters, wrong. I mean,
we've seen the athletes go over. Ocho Cinco was boxing. I don't know if he won it, but I mean Nate Robinson was horrible.
Did he get like knocked on the
first punch by
one of the
Jake Paul. Paul knocked him out. But we'll see. I think it'll be cool.
I think it'll be
interesting.
interesting.
Mike Tyson versus Frank Gore.
Oh God, no! Frank Gore would get.
They're still talking about doing the Mike Tyson versus Holyfield fight again, but it's been in and out. Like, I don't know.
I know that'd be cool, and I think it's weird. It's like boxing kind of having a resurgence right now, but honestly, you don't want to give credit to one of the Pauls, but give credit to Jake and Logan Paul for really bringing the media back to boxing.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's really only been sitting on Fox in the last few years and never really getting any sort of momentum. And then you almost see these kids come in here, even though boxing had some great guys already. They were doing great. I mean, Floyd Money Mayweather, every time he fought with Pacquiao and all these guys. Let me finish here. And then just like every time we had these big fights, there was like hype for a week and it was kind of like, who cares afterwards. And then now you almost have this feeling like when we have these influencers coming in to the sport, giving them some attraction, bringing in younger audiences, it now feels every time we have a fight, whether it's with the celebrities or with the actual boxers, it almost feels like there's more hype. And then afterwards, that hype doesn't go away. It's like, oh man, what a match. Yeah. We need another one.
We need another one and another one.
These kids are hungry for more of these fights, and it's like, we haven't seen this excitement in boxing for years.
I gotta go with the Wilder versus Fury here.
Right.
That part 3's come. They're fighting again, October 9th.
But
we'll go into that too as well. How I feel. That's probably why they canceled it there, buddy. So that's probably why that Tyson fight got canceled because of that. But that Tyson Fury fight, we'll talk more about that too when that comes in. It's October 9th, which is coming around, but that's part 3. Like these guys the first one was a draw, then Fury won part 2, and now part 3. Like I'm gonna try and convince my dad to get it on pay-per-view. Like, come on, watch it.
I'll be over.
yeah.
I'll come watch some boxing.
I want to watch boxing. Maybe we get it here.
All right, well, that's going to do it for today's show. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Make sure to check out Power Hour up next on ysnlive.com. Come back tomorrow. We'll talk more NFL and more college football, as we always do. We'll actually, I believe, get into previewing some upcoming games for this weekend for college football. Thank you all for tuning in. From the 21st, I'm Alec. That's Matt. We'll see you all next time.